The PRESSTV is rolling coverage of the assassination of Qasem Soleimani, now entering its fourth day.
On the first day of October, Iran fired dozens of ballistic missiles at Israeli targets, successfully hitting military and espionage sites with missile after missile. As if the regime's so-called Iron Dome systems were non-existent, while Iran said it was exercising its right to retaliate against Israeli strikes that assassinated Iranian and allied figures, it was exerting authority to punish an increasingly rogue regime. Earlier, the Israeli military had assassinated the leader of the Lebanese Hezbollah movement, Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah, and an Iranian Quds force commander, Brigadier General Abbas Nilfurushan, in Beirut. And before that, the regime had assassinated Ismail Haniyeh, the then leader of the Hamas resistance movement, while he was in Tehran. In this episode of In a Nutshell, we are reviewing the Iranian ballistic missile strike on Israel. On September 27th, while Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu was in, he ordered military strikes on several buildings in Beirut, which assassinated Brigadier General Nilfurushan and Nasrallah. The two were meeting at Hezbollah headquarters in Harat Tariq, in the Dahiya suburb of the Lebanese capital. More than 80 bombs were dropped by Israeli warplanes on the buildings, among them 2,000-pound US-made weapons known as bunker busters. At least 33 people were killed and nearly 200 others were injured. That was the most brazen escalation by the Israeli regime in months of war on Hezbollah, which started simultaneously after Hamas attacked Israeli targets on October the 7th last year. Since then, the Israeli regime has been hitting the Gaza Strip, killing over 2,000 civilians so far and wounding thousands more. But the Tel Aviv regime had been escalating its strikes on Hezbollah in recent weeks. On September 17th and 18th, Israel conducted assassination attempts on thousands of Lebanese, including civilians and Hezbollah fighters, by detonating booby-trapped pagers and walkie-talkies that they used to communicate. Dozens were killed in those strikes and hundreds were injured. Iran's ambassador to Lebanon, Mojtaba Amani, was also wounded because he owned one such pager. The act of aggression was largely condemned by much of the world community as a violation of international law. Iran had in April conducted a military strike on targets inside Israel in response to an Israeli strike that had hit the Iranian consulate in Damascus, Syria. But Israel did not learn the lesson and went ahead to assassinate Haniyeh in Tehran in a serious breach of Iranian sovereignty. Israel then went ahead to murder Nasrallah and Nilfurushan. The world was holding its breath for another major response. Then, on the first day of October, Tehran eventually ended its strategic patience in the face of Israeli acts of terror and fired hundreds of ballistic missiles from across Iran at Israel. The missiles, including advanced supersonic weapons, reached Israel in a matter of 12 minutes, sending panic-stricken Israelis into bunkers. The world watched videos filmed by Israelis showing orange shooting stars flying in the night sky over the occupied territories, and then bursts of from explosions as one after another they impacted. Various Israeli military bases as well as the headquarters of the Mossad inside Tel Aviv were hit in the Iranian strike. The Israelis soon banned the Israelis from sharing images of the strikes and its aftermath on social media. Analysts, however, shared the belief that Iran's missile raid put a permanent end to the invincibility myth of Israel's so-called Iron Dome missile system. Israel's humiliation was also widely celebrated across the Arab and Muslim world, as many the streets enjoy in several cities of the region to distribute sweets and thank Iran. And note the contrast between Iran's military conduct and Israel's frenzy killing machine. Israel's murder of Haniyeh and Nasrallah and the regime's other hit-and-run assassination operations were not only secretive and illegal, but also limited in scope. This is while Iran responded boldly by carrying out a large-scale, legally justified, authoritative military strike under everyone's watch by targeting a range of various Israeli military targets only. The message could not have been more clear.
Your headlines on Press TV: the Hezbollah resistance movement launches a new retaliatory drone strike on an Israeli military base near Haifa, killing 4 soldiers and injuring over 100.